Okay, so today we're gonna talk about the new capabilities around solutions management that we've been working on lately, and that are focusing initially on packaging, deploying, and maintaining automation solutions. So let's see a bit the agenda for today. We're gonna start with the status quo about solutions today in the UiPath platform. Then we're gonna transition to the solution management capabilities we've been working on and explain a bit the context of this and what we expect. And afterwards, we'll move to see an actual demo of how these new features are working and how you can leverage them in your day-to-day work. And last but not least, we're gonna discuss a bit around timelines and when you will be able to actually play with this and use it in your day-to-day work. So let's get this started. So I'm going to start with a very basic question, but I want us to be on the same page with this definition because I feel like the word solution is a very overused term. So I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing when we're using this term. So for the purpose of this conversation, you can view the solution as a collection of components that you've built and configured on the UiPath platform and that are required to exist and function together to automate the business use case. So the focus is on the outcome. The outcome is to manage to automate a business use case. Now, what sits behind that in terms of different components that you've engineered, it can be as simple as a single process or as complex as something that contains multiple processes and apps and a series of assets, queues, storage buckets. If you expand it also to data service or DA product, you may also have ML skills or data service entities. So basically, all the things that you've worked on in your dev environment that you need them to be together for your automation, for your solution to work. So with this in mind, I think we can agree to two things. First is that solutions, it's something that already exists. It's not something new that we're coming with now. It's something that you are already working with, that you are already developing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this conversation today, right? And the second thing is that behind this, let's say, simple definition, there is a lot of effort and manual work that needs to happen besides the actual development of the solution in order to have it in a production environment and actually provide value for the business. And what happens is that the flow typically looks like this. So we start from build, right? And you're going to studio, you're developing the workflows. You realize that you might need some assets or some queues. Then you go to orchestrator to create those resources. If you're using an app, then you're going to apps to define the UI part. Now, all of this is happening across multiple UI surfaces. It's something that could be streamlined, but this is not the part that we're going to focus today. What we're going to focus today is what happens after you have the solution built and working in your development environment. So also based on the responses that I've seen from you today in the poll, from that point, there are typically two directions. It's either a fully manual process where, okay, I have this in my development environment. Now we need to work on providing some documentation that describes all the components that need to exist for a certain solution, to describe their properties, and then to basically go in the next environment, let's say in the test environment, and upload the workflow packages, then create the processes, create a folder structure, create the processes, create manually the rest of the components, and then do it all over again in production or in another environment. Or some of you might have started to have different custom solutions for this or automated parts of the process, but usually this is just alleviating a bit the pain, but not completely solving it. Okay, after you have everything created in the subsequent environment, then when it comes to actually managing the life cycle of that solution, this is also a bit challenging because today you don't have an overview of all of your solution components. If you have a solution that is using some queues, some assets, and also a data service entity, there is no way for you to go in a place and be able to see what are all the building blocks that work for your solution, which also leads to the fact that if you're making a change to one of these components, you cannot know for sure what solutions are going to be impacted. And last but not least, when you have to update the solution, it's a similar. There are similar challenges as with the first deployment, but with different particularities. So probably we can all agree that the current experience for deploying and moving solutions from one environment to another, it's not great today. And today there is not a clear out-of-the-box answer in the platform to help you with this. So this leads me to solutions management and what we want to achieve with this initiative. So if we're looking just at one sentence, the goal of the initiative is to help you manage the life cycle of your solutions with ease. What does this mean more concretely? It means that in a first version of this, we want to offer you the ability to package all the components that are part of your solution in a singular artifact that you can then easily transport between different environments, or if you're a partner working for a customer, to send it to the customer. And starting from that artifact, to have an easy way to deploy and apply different environment-specific configurations to the solution. And of course, last but not least, to have an easier way to upgrade and maintain the solution. So if we go back a bit to this slide, what I'm gonna show today is mainly focusing on the deploy, manage, and update steps. No changes to the initial development phase. Okay, I'm mentioning this solution package. What is this solution package? It's just a self-contained transportable artifact that is gonna be created in a way that I'm gonna show you soon, and that it includes all the files and artifacts that are needed for a solution to function. So for example, if you have several different workflows in your solution, you have, let's say, 5 NuGet packages, they will be put together in this zip along with a solution definition in a declarative format that we will be able to read, and then based on these instructions to automatically create everything for you in the target environment without having you to manually do so. Okay, so this was basically a small introduction of these capabilities, but I think the best way for you to get a sense of what we've been working on is to actually see them in action. So I'm gonna switch to the demo part. Okay. So here for the demo, let's imagine that I am an RPA developer. I am part of the COE of a company that recently started using UiPath. And we are now planning to automate the purchase request processing for our colleagues in the procurement department. And we want to look at the flow end-to-end from the request submission. Then we want to also check for approvals for this. We want to send different requests for offers to different vendors, and in the end to select a vendor and send the purchase order. So we've started looking into this, and we've analyzed the functional and also access requirements for this flow. And we've decided that it would be best to split this in several stages and to actually use subfolders for different stages of the process, because we want to ensure different levels of access at each stage. So the people that need to have access to approve the request would be different from the people that actually submit the purchase request. Hence, we've separated these automations in different folders. Moreover, besides processes, we've been using in this solution also several assets, queues. We've been leveraging also storage buckets, and we are also using some action catalogs for the approval flows. So all in all, we've started developing this, and we have it now working in our dev environment, as I was saying. And now the challenge is that we want to move this to staging. So if I'm going to my staging tenant, I can see that I have my procurement folder, but that this is completely empty. So unfortunately, with the tools that we have at our disposal today, what we are preparing to do now is to actually spend time on defining the documentation for all these, to describe what are all the components that need to be created and their properties, and then to go and manually download the packages from the development tenant, move them to the staging tenant, then create everything manually. It's definitely not fun. So at the moment we were looking into all these steps that we need to take, we also heard that UiPath is working on something called solutions management that might help us with this flow. So let's see together how we can achieve the same result in an easier manner using these capabilities. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to navigate to Automation Ops. And here you'll be able to see a new entry called Solutions Management Preview. So as I'm entering this surface, I'm going to see three things. First, a tenant selection. The solution management capabilities are a per tenant functionality, so we can ensure that we always respect the data residency. This is something that for some of you might not be very relevant, but for some customers, it's important to ensure, especially in cloud, that the data remains in a certain region. So since I've been working in my development environment, I'm here selecting development, and I can see in the bottom part, two tabs, solution packages and deployments. So what I want to do now is to create a solution package based on the things we've just seen earlier. So I'm gonna hit this, create solution package. Okay, and here I'm shown all the folders in the development environment that I personally have access to, along with all the resources in those folders that, again, I have access to. So what I'm trying to do is move everything that I have here in purchase request processing and package it. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm going to select everything that I've developed. We've worked in an organized manner for this solution, so I made sure that everything that I have here is actually needed. So there are no leftovers from the development. So as you can see, I have several assets, bucket, processes, queues, also triggers. And we should be able to see also some action catalogs, as I was saying. And I'm gonna hit on add. What is happening now is that we are making sure that we extract all the properties that define all these components, and we are presenting it to you in this interface for you to review. So on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see the Solution Explorer. Here, you'll be able to see, in case your solution has a folder structure, the different folders. If everything is in one folder, you'll only see one folder. As you navigate through the folders, you'll be able to see here what are all the components that are part of this folder. So in my first folder, I have a process and the queue. Here I have a process and action catalog and multiple queues, and so on and so forth. As I select a certain component, on the right-hand side, I'm presented with all the properties of that component as they exist in the development environment. Two things I want to mention here. So you'll be able, let's take an asset as an example. You'll be able to see that some fields are read-only and some fields can be edited. Why is that? The fields that are read-only cannot be changed because this will might break your automation. And if you want to change them, you'll have actually to go back to Studio, make some changes also in the workflow, and then make those edits. So if you need to make any changes to that, they need to happen wherever you develop that component and then re-import the component here to reflect the changes. But besides that, there are also some configurations for each component that you may want to set differently between different environments. So for example, let's say that for a queue, in your dev environment, there wasn't very relevant to set a certain SLA. But as you're moving it, or you want to promote this to higher environments, you want to change that. And for that, you have two options. If you already know what are the requirements of the next environment, you can change them here. And during deployment, you won't need to do anything. Or if you're not sure what are the requirements of the next environment, you can just leave things as they are, as a similar experience will be presented to you during deployment, and you can make those decisions there. Another thing to mention is that in case of credential assets, credentials are not ported between environments. So at deployment time, you will be required to provide at least the credentials if other changes are not needed. Another thing I wanted to mention is that, as you've probably seen, what you are adding to your solution is actually a process, right? So I selected from there. So here from, if I look on a process, it's telling me what's the name, it's telling me from what package is coming from, and also some other properties that the process has in Orchestrator. When you add a process, we're also identifying what are the files, or what are the NuGet packages. So in the case of my solution, I have, it identified all these 5 NuGet packages, and when I'm going to publish it, they'll all be put together in the same zip. So in the interest of time, let's move forward and hit publish on this. Okay, I have here a long name for my solution. So for the root folder name, I'm gonna keep just this, and for the package name, I'm gonna hit this. The version is the first one, since it's the first time I'm doing this, and I'm gonna hit on publish. Okay, so this is all that I had to do to create the solution package artifact. Okay, now if I'm looking here in my development tenant, I can see now that I have this package which is ready. And what I want to do is to create everything in my staging environment. So I'm gonna download the latest version for this. Give me a second. Okay. And now, because I want to move this to staging, so let's go a bit back to Orchestrator. So in my staging Orchestrator, okay, in my staging Orchestrator again, let's check the procurement folder is completely empty, okay? And now I'm gonna switch from here. I'm gonna select the staging tenant. I can see that in my staging tenant, there are no solution packages and no deployments at the moment. I'm gonna hit on upload the solution package. And I'm gonna, 1 second. I think it's this one, yes, okay. Okay, let's move the zoom bar, upload. Okay, my package is now ready. So I'm gonna, I have the package, I moved it, it's one artifact, and I'm gonna hit deploy latest version. So the first step in the deployment flow is giving me some general information. It's telling me my package name, my version, who created it, and it's asking me where I want this to be deployed. Since it's something that I developed for my procurement department, I'm gonna select procurement, and I'm gonna leave the root folder name as is. I'm gonna hit on next. And you're gonna see here a similar view with what we've seen earlier, because here what it's doing here in the Solution Explorer part, it's telling the person who is doing the deployment, look, this is everything, exactly what you're seeing here is gonna be created in your target environment in the location that you've specified. So as I was mentioning earlier, here again, I can go and check the configurations for these components and make some environment specific changes if needed. Again, for example, maybe here in my next environment, I do want to enable job recording for this process, whereas in the dev environment, I wasn't interested in that, or other different configurations. Again, it's showing here as well the file, so you know what is going to be uploaded to your feeds. And another thing that I wanted to show you here, so basically here the idea would be to make sure that you review the components and that everything looks fine. So a thing that I wanted to show is the following one. If we're looking into this folder, I can see that this folder contains 2 credential assets. What we are doing in my theoretical company is that the SAP credentials are being shared between multiple automation solutions. Therefore, I would prefer not to create again this credential, but I want to be able to reuse one that I know I already have in my target environment. So I can do that by using this link and replace functionality, which is currently available for assets and storage buckets. So I can hit this link and replace, and it's showing me that I already have an SAP credential for procurement with this name in my shared folder, because this is where we're keeping our shared credentials. So I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna hit on link and replace. And here it's showing me that this was replaced. What does this mean? It means that when we're gonna create everything related to this solution, instead of creating from zero a new asset, we're gonna reuse the one that already exists in the shell folder, and we're gonna link it to the solution folder. Okay, for the other asset, I will decide to create it, and I will hit here, validate and continue. I intentionally didn't put the credentials for this asset because I wanted you to also see this part with the validation errors. So before deploying, I have this option to validate. So when I validated, it identified the fact that I'm missing a password for my asset. So I'm gonna go back here, provide the password, and I'm gonna validate again. Okay, it's telling me that I'm all set, that the validation's passed, and I'm gonna start the deployment. In terms of the validations are meant to ensure that there are no unsupported configurations. Like if you forgot to add a certain component to your solution, like you had 5 assets and you added just 4, that's not something that is going to be detected by the validation. Okay, so now let's go back to automation ops and see what happened. Okay, I'm going to solutions, and now I'm seeing that in my staging environment, in the deployment section, it's telling me that I have a deployment in the procurement folder and that this is successfully inactive. So let's go to the solution folder and see what happened and also what successfully inactive means. Okay, so now if I'm going to my staging environment and I'm looking in my procurement folder, I will see that everything was automatically created for me. So I didn't have to do anything manual other than the steps that I showed earlier. I have my folder structure. In all folders, everything was created, the processes, the queues, and so on and so forth. And if I'm looking at a trigger that I don't have here. Yes, I have. You're gonna see that the triggers are disabled. And this links back to what I wanted to mention about successful and inactive. So when we start the deployment, we're creating everything from the solution components that are required, but we always create the triggers as disabled. Why? Because there are also some additional steps that you need to take, or at least to check, to make sure that everything is right before actually activating the triggers. And those things are, you need to make sure that you have the proper setup for machines in your solution folder. Maybe a certain machine got inherited to your solution and it's not the machine where you want to actually run the automation. So check for the machines, make sure that you add the right users and groups to the corresponding solution folders. And also, if you are using assets per robot or if you're using user machine mappings, these are not configured automatically through the flow that I've shown you. You will have to manually go and configure those post deployment. So once you are happy with this runtime setup, you can come here and say activate deployment. This is also like a safeguard for you to make sure that, like, if you're seeing a deployment that looks successful active, it means that all the checks that I've just mentioned were done and that everything is fine. So now if I go back to Orchestrator, I will see that my triggers are now enabled. Okay, what else? And the things that I've mentioned are also mentioned here. Another important point that I missed on purpose is the first one, which is everything that I showed you includes the solution package includes the workflow packages, but if you are using custom libraries, at the moment, you will have to manually move those. It's something that we're looking into to streamline, but at the moment, the libraries are not included, so that would be something that needs to be done manually. Okay, and last thing that I want to show is that it exists also the reverse of the operation. So if a solution reaches its end of life, you also have this uninstall option, which will basically do the reverse of this operation. Here is not something really fancy. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, for the demo purposes. So again, if I'm looking here, I have all this created. If I'm gonna uninstall it, everything that was created as part of the solution deployment is going to be removed. And I'm gonna highlight this part with everything that was created, because as you've noticed during deployment, for a certain asset, I decided not to create it, but to link it. And now that I'm uninstalling the solution, the asset will not be removed from its original location in the shared folder. So if I'm going here again, there is nothing anymore in my procurement folder, but in my shared folder, the SAP asset is still there. Okay, so this was the main part of the demo. Just as a short recap, now I'm moving back to the slides and trying to move this in presentation mode, but it's not cooperating. Sorry about that. Now it's cooperating? Yes. Okay, so to do a short recap, what we've seen today is the following. So things that exist today. You have the ability to go and create that solution package, to bundle the components and publish the solution package. The other thing that is currently available is the deployment and configuration wizard that we've just seen, the ability to uninstall solutions, and the initial management capabilities where you can see the packages and the deployments overview per tenant. Another thing that I want to mention is that you can see this asterisk here, is that what is included in the scope today, it allows you to package solutions with all the resources from Orchestrator. So you can have processes, triggers, assets, queues, storage buckets, and also action catalogs. For other components, such as data service entities or integration service things or the ML skills and so forth, these are gonna come up later on and they're gonna onboard to the same flow. So what is coming in later, we've seen now the initial deployment for a solution, but as we speak, we're working also on an upgrade experience. So that is gonna come soon. We are also looking at improvements and optimizations from the feedback that we're getting from you guys, because we're still in preview with these capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, we're planning to integrate additional components, data service entities, apps, event triggers, and connections are the ones that we're looking at next. And last but not least, we want to get to a point where we can offer also CI/CD integration into ways maybe some of you are familiar with the pipelines functionality from Automation Ops. So the first step would be to see how we can combine these efforts and offer the option to do CI/CD through Automation Ops. But we're also looking at allowing integration with other third-party components as from the third-party solutions as from the feedback that we've heard from our users and customers. Some people are already using some third-party tools. And this leads me to the last part of this discussion, which is related to timelines. So we've actually launched this as a private preview around 2023-4. And I'm really, really happy to announce to you that starting this week, we are also in public preview with it. So everything that I've shown you today, it's available for you guys in Automation Ops to try it out. So I think the timing is really good for this session, as you will be able to be one of the first to play with the functionality. We're aiming to GA early 2024. We do not have an exact timeline at the moment, since we've just started the public preview and we want to see the feedback that we're getting. So what else to say other than we really want to encourage you to start playing with it and send your feedback our way. And I haven't been able to look at the chat, but I'm curious to see your questions. Before passing it to my colleague, I have just one question for you at the end. It's gonna be really helpful for us to understand how you guys are perceiving what I showed you today and what else you would like to see moving forward. So my question for you is, if what I've showed you today and also the upgrade flow would be available and general available for all of you tomorrow, will you start using it in this form? I want to understand what additional capabilities are a must-have for you to actually start using the solution management capabilities and for it to provide value in your day-to-day work. So basically, the first option is you would be happy with what you've seen today, plus the upgrade flow. Or you would want also to see these other things before being able to derive value from these capabilities. So the poll would be a multi choice. You can select multiple things here, and I'm gonna pass now the share to my colleague for you to give you the QR code to respond.
Thank you, Raisa. Thank you for the beautiful presentation. So I put up the slide with the QR code where you can enter and respond to this question. And because it's just one question, we can see live how the
great
how the percentages change. Amazing. Okay, I love this.
Okay, gathering more points for connections. Connections is rising. Okay. Nice. I'm happy to see the results are somewhat consistent also from our poll from forward. So it's definitely that library support is the winner for this, and we are looking into offering that. We want to have this included before we GA. Okay, and yes, as I said, connections and event triggers, it's starting to gain ground.
Good. I think we can resume to our presentation now, right?
Yes, I think we can.
We'll keep the results in the poll anyway,
Yes.
and we'll share them if anyone is curious about it. Thank you, Raisa, for this beautiful session. People, don't just go now, because we still have a few more minutes to spend together. I'll go into next steps, and then the experts are coming back at the mic for the live Q&A. So you will be able to unmute yourselves and ask questions. Beautiful faces. But why can't we just go to what's next for us? Just 1 second to go to the slide. Huh? No, it just takes us back to the first one. Is it a bug? Is it a feature?
We'll never know.
Never know. That's... There you go.
Almost there, yeah.
Almost there. Okay, so you need to download the solution package that our colleague Sophia linked in the chat. And you will also find it in the resources. So tomorrow when the wrap-up of the event is done, so when you receive the email with the recording, you will also receive the presentation with the links. So don't worry. And also our next sessions. So save your seat for the next session, for the November session, the November 21st session. Automate in full power with the latest generative AI features in UiPath. The registrations are already open. And Sophia is going to leave the link in the chat so everybody can register now if you haven't already. And the December 14th one, which is going to be released in just a few days, coming soon. So,
if I may add something regarding the solution package, is that I deeply encourage you all to create your own solution packages and actually test that flow. But if you want to take the shortcut and just look at the deployment, for sure that package is going to be available for you and you can start directly the deployment. And just to mention this, the solution package that we're going to offer is just like a sample to test the solution management capabilities. So it's not actually including the automation for purchase request processing. It's just, there are just sample workflows, just to set the expectations straight.
thank you. Thank you for clearing it up. And now let's open the mics and see if there are any questions that we might actually respond. I think that in the chat, everything got replied to. As far as I can see, I followed the chat and everything's fine. So let's now unmute.
I have one question, Andrea, for solution management. So suppose we have deployed the package, okay? So all the processes and folder structure has been created in a staging or production environment, right? So I saw that there is some small s is also mentioned in then the icon is there, like folder icon is there. Suppose
Correct.
someone, so are we allowing user to go to the folder structure in a tenant level and change the folder structure of the solution? Or not, because why, if we delete it, because you show the last step is a delete, right? And if someone has changed the folder name, then that particular folder
it's not gonna
cannot
find
be
it
deleted.
anymore. Yeah, we
Yes.
don't allow messing with the names of the solution folders. And another thing that we are considering but is not currently implemented is, so today we're deploying all these, we're marking these folders that were deployed through the solution management flow with like a small s, so you can identify them. But other than that, we are not putting guardrails on the solution components. Like you can, it's not recommended, but you can go and delete a certain asset or edit it or whatnot. So a thing that we're looking into is to be able to also have some guardrails on the solutions, so that once the solution is deployed through the solution management capabilities, when you try to alter something from the solution, to prevent you from doing that, saying this component is used by the following solutions, you should not blah blah. of course, you should be able to have, you will have the ability to remove that guardrail, but it's something that we think is gonna be helpful to ensure that things are not getting tampered in a production environment. As I was saying, today is just that small s, and there are like just some minimal things, like not changing the name or altering the structure, but there are more things that we are thinking about in terms of guardrails for a deployed solution in production. Would that make sense to you?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Someone else? I didn't manage to catch up with all the activity in the chat. I'm happy my colleagues were able to reply live.
And how is the pricing for this? Is it kind of funded with the licenses, or?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to answer that. We see this as a fundamental platform capability that we are not planning to, that we plan to include for everybody. It's not gonna be an extra cost for it.
That's cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question, if you can hear me. So
yes.
What about availability for on-prem or customer managed sites? Do you have a roadmap for that?
Yes. So initially it's gonna be cloud only, because there were a lot of things that we've changed in the platform with this, and we want to make sure everything is stable, get validation. But the plan is to also bring it to on-prem, to automation suite. We know for sure it's not gonna be in the next release, but most likely in around a year, I think it will be available in on-prem. So short answer is not available now, but yes, in the future, and in automation suite. For the customers using the MSI, the orchestrator MSI, this is not gonna be ported there.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
We have a question now from Chris Surati. Wait a second. It was just responded in the chat. Automation Ops is free for enterprise customers.
I'm not sure. I think I need to check with my automation ops colleagues. There were so many changes in the pricing plans that I didn't manage to catch up. But I think I kind of understand the idea of the question, since solutions management is available via automation ops. You cannot access it if automation ops is not also free for everybody. I will have to check on that. As I was saying, now it's in the functionality is in preview. If there are gonna be any issues around that, we're gonna look into it, because the consensus at the moment is that these capabilities around solution management, we want to be able to offer them to everyone. So if there's something that's not working properly, we're gonna look into it. But I'm not sure at the moment to answer the question specifically on automation ops.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions arising?
I think I've got one that is, it's rather an edge case. This is something that might happen. So maybe it's just curious if you've thought of this. But I believe when you're deploying, you're making new assets, new storage buckets, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
When you make a storage bucket, you can connect it either locally in the orchestrator to the Azure Web Services or to the Amazon, and you can mix and match. So you could have one folder that is connected to an Azure, one that's connected to an Amazon, one that's connected to a UiPath one. I'm curious what exactly happens if you say have a folder connected to an Azure storage bucket in one tenant, you move it to another. Does it prompt you to remake that connection to a new storage bucket, or is it? I'm wondering how it handles those scenarios. It's a very unique scenario, but I'm just curious if you have that covered.
I see. Alexandra, do you know? I'm not 100% sure.
We copy every settings of a storage bucket connection from your source tenant. So during the deployment time, you will have to just re-input your secrets for that connection. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I think it's something that could still be managed manually without too much effort, because I'm guessing you'd want to have a different storage bucket that you're, a different blob, let's say, in the Azure environment that you're connected to between
you
the
can
tenants.
edit them. You can edit them in a deploy time.
Yeah, as long as it's something to just for us to keep aware of if we need to use those custom configurations, I think that's manageable.
Thank you, Alexandra. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. Anyone else?
And would there be any plans to include a tool like, how would I say, to check the code sanity? Because in other tools, we have that capability in the other world. When we do CI/CD and all those automated deployments, we can include in a tools like Sonar Cube to go and do an additional layer of code sanity and stuff like that. So will that be anything on the pipeline here?
This is not part of the first wave of capabilities, but I see this related to the first part, which I said we're not touching now initially, to the build part. And I'm happy to say that we've started looking also into like the actual end-to-end story to start also from the build part and actually be able to do the things that you're saying. For that, we don't have yet a timeline. Is an initiative that we've literally just started looking into as a continuation of what I just shared today, to also properly tackle the first part, the build part, and be able to have like the source code for the entire solution and do things like that. But it is coming, but it's not something that has a clear timeline at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. And I just wanted to check if that's the included the phases. Okay.
That's why I'm saying like the actual North Star for solutions management is gonna be like a multi-year effort, and we've thought a lot about what to start with, and we know that's such a pain point for such a long time, the packaging and deployment, and we're hoping that this is gonna start helping you as we continue building on top.
Yeah, completely understand. This is a major effort, and thanks for coming up with a solution like this.
I wanted to add another idea that we'll have also the capability to integrate with automation of CI/CD pipelines. And there you will be able to create your own gateways that would, I don't know, test your code for various scenarios before deploying it as a solution further. Would that make sense? It wouldn't be something out of the box. You would have to build your own CI/CD pipeline automation, but you would be able to include their various testing steps, I guess.
I mean, the work that you do in the pipelines is all just custom UiPath jobs, really. So you could arguably try and find a way of building them into the solutions management, that you could run a pipeline job that doesn't necessarily deploy the package, but could do things like run the workflow analyzer, run the tests. That might be a way of doing a quick win or something, or partway towards a final solution. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah, that's something we're looking into. Because now with the pipelines, you can only move the packages and define these rules. And we want to see how we can combine the efforts from solutions with the one from automation ops pipeline, so you can have the pipeline for the whole thing. Okay. Going once, going twice, one last question, or we stop here?
just as the best part is that we need to leave when we're having fun, we can close while we're still having fun. Thank you all for your insights and for your questions. Thank you, Raisa, for the valuable content. And thank you, Alexandra and Alexandra, for supporting us in the chat. And Roxana and Sofia for making this session possible. And thank you all for joining. Hope to see as many of you in November. And you'll find the recording and the slides tomorrow in the event page and in your email. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.